Morning all, Brian S. Pratt here. Going to read another chapter of Shepherd's Quest, Book 1 of the Broken Key Trilogy. Going to do chapter 11 today. A little recap. They found the crypt, recovers lots of coins, gems. They found the first part of the broken key, and Bart got hit with a dart in the back, poisoned. They rushed him home. Ryan got a potion from old Glia, and Bart's on the mend, but he's very weak. And there's a guy in town hunting for him. Bart's concerned about that situation developing, and he has basically told Chad and Ryan that they need to take the coins to Wardine to find Thyr, his fence guy, and in order to trade in these old coins for regular coins, because the Duke York has proclaimed that he gets a cut of 20% for any treasure found within his lands. So they don't want to do that. So they're gonna go to Thyr and find this fence, Thyr, and get 90% on the dollar, so to speak. All right, so chapter 11, with commentary and spoilers, I'm sure. Yeah, here we go. After giving his mother some excuse about needing to run an errand for Bart, Ryan and Chad saddled the horse and were soon underway. Each wore their pack, which contained the treasure they took from the crypt. Bart had suggested they wrap the coins in cloth so they wouldn't jingle and give away their presents. Before they left Quillim and headed to Wardine, they made a stop at old Glia's to return the bottles she had requested. When she learned of their impending journey to Wardine, she asked them if they could pick up a few things for her at the apothecary, where she bought some of her ingredients. Ryan said they would, and they waited while she prepared a list. Just give this to Guyman, she explained as she handed Ryan the list. Then she explained where to find the shop. She also handed him the 2 small gems that she had taken for the potions which saved Bart's life. This should cover the cost. You two can split whatever is left over for your trouble. Thank you, Glia, Ryan said. She eyed their packs and how the bottoms bulged out some, but what thoughts she may have had, she kept to herself. They left her hut and headed across country toward the road leading to Wardine. The route they took bypassed Quillim in order to avoid encountering anyone. On the way to Wardine, Ryan came to the conclusion that what they had taken from the crypt wouldn't be enough for him to change the mind of Freya's father. He had forgotten to ask his mother how things were going as far as her engagement with Rupert. He hoped that the date of their marriage would be sometime next year. Thoughts such as these haunted him along every mile of the road to Wardine. Now let's flash back to Ryan's house, where Ryan's mother is taking care of Bart. Ryan's mother helped Bart from the bed and to the table when it came time for the noon meal. He had slept throughout the morning, having fallen asleep not long after Chad and Ryan departed. Now he sat at the table while Ryan's mother filled a bowl with a light stew that was more broth than anything substantial. He looked at it for a second after she placed it before him and then glanced to her. Eat it, she said. It will help you get your strength back. Knowing better than to argue with a woman when she thought she was doing something for your own good, he took up his spoon and began slurping broth. He continued to eat the stew for several minutes in silence, neither one doing much in the way of engaging the other in conversation. Finally, Ryan's mother said, "A stranger arrived in town about the time you, Ryan, and Chad went camping." She paused a moment as she glanced at him. When no response was forthcoming, she continued, "He was asking around about you." She glanced at him again and saw that the spoon was poised just for his mouth, motionless. The look that came over him could only be considered one of dread. He held that position for a couple seconds before resuming to eat the soup. "Oh?" he asked. "He claimed that he was your friend," she told him. "He's been wandering around town ever since." Trying not to appear unnerved by what she was telling him, he asked, "What does this man look like?" "Oh, he's of average height," she replied. "Dark hair with brown eyes. Seemed to have an air of confidence about him, according to what Laren said." He continued eating while he assimilated the information. The fact that the man had appeared in town the day after he and Chad went to Wardeen couldn't be dismissed as a coincidence. Somehow, he must have seen him while he was there and tracked him back to Quillim. A worried look came over him as he glanced to Ryan's mother. Anyone near him? Anyone near him now was in great danger. Have you mentioned anyone that we returned last night? She shook her head negatively. I haven't been farther than the pen outside to feed the sheep, she replied. It might be better not to let anyone know that we have returned, she said. Especially that I am staying here. She turned a grim look to him. I knew you were trouble, she said. Usually, Ryan has a good judgment when it comes to people. But why he chose to be friends with you, I have never figured out. If you feel that way about me, he said, a touch of hurt entering his voice, why are you taking care of me? Because Ryan cares about you, she replied. I'm doing it for him. He finished his stew, and she began ladling him another bowlful. I'll leave as soon as I am able, he assured her. Oh, stop, she stated. I have never turned away a person in need before, and I am not about to now. When his bowl was full again, she sat back down and continued eating her portion of the stew. Bart ate quickly. When she offered him a third bowl, he turned her down, saying that he was tired and needed rest. He allowed her to assist him back to the room and into bed. He lay there calmly until she left the room and closed the door. No sooner was the door shut than he swung his legs back over the side of the bed, facing the closet. He had to get to his pack. If the man searching for him was a member of a certain group, as he feared, then it would only be a matter of time before they tracked him there to Ryan's place. Ryan's staff leaned against the wall close to the bed, and he was able to get hold of it. Using it as a crutch, he crossed a short space to the closet, leaning heavily on the staff. He opened the door, and then worked to reach the pack that was hidden in the back. He stretched in order to reach it and overextended himself. Losing his balance, he fell to the floor of the closet, and the staff hit the floor with a clatter. He froze there on the floor, listening in dread for the approaching footsteps of Ryan's mother as she came to see what the noise was. To his relief, no such footsteps developed. Crawling now, he reached the pack and opened it. He pulled out one of the rolled pieces of leather nestled inside and tried to toss it over onto the bed. It didn't quite make it all the way and landed on the floor next to it. He closed the pack again and worked his way out of the closet, cursing his weakened condition the entire time. Do I put in too much extra stuff? Because I could have just said he crossed and got the darts and came back, but no, I had to do all that little bitty stuff on the way there and he threw the pack. Didn't quite make it. It could have made it, but it didn't quite make it. I'm sure if I had a traditional publisher, they'd probably take out a third of my book because it's all superfluous and extra and you probably don't really need it. But I like it. And that's the nice thing about being self-published, such as I am. I can write any way I want to. I can put in stuff that makes no sense, like the Morside Saga and my plot seeds, you know. People who read just book one thing, well, I can take out a third of this book and it won't make any difference. Not knowing that they're taking out stuff that is pertinent to stuff later in the series. So, my series are like just one big book. You know, broken into scenes, basically. So, yeah. I like adding the extra stuff. Once the closet door was closed, he managed to return his staff back to its original position, propped against the wall. Then he crawled over to where the rolled leather had landed, picked it up, and set it on the bed. After that, he gripped the side of the bed and pulled himself back up onto it. After he made it up, he had to lay there for several minutes before his limbs would stop trembling. The exertion of going to the closet and back had used up what little strength he had. It took a while, but when his muscles finally calmed down, he untied the thongs securing the rolled leather pack. Then he unrolled it and revealed a dozen 4-inch darts. 3 small vials filled with the dark liquid were secured in line with the darts. Over the next hour, he worked most carefully to remove each dart, dip it in the liquid, then returned it to its place in the leather pack. Once he was finished with applying the liquid to the darts, he replaced the small vials back in their places. Leaving 2 of the darts out, he rolled the leather pack up and laid it on the bed next to him. He then placed the 2 darts he left out on top of it. By the time he was finished, his muscles were again complaining. He laid his head back on the pillow and prayed that they would not find him there. Glancing to the darts lying atop the rolled leather pack, he at least was ready should they come for him. They don't call him Bart the Dart for nothing, right? I think we're too late to do anything tonight, Riyan announced. They were still on the road, and the sun had gone down an hour ago. Best we find an inn and conduct our business in the morning, offered Chad. I don't know if we have enough coins for a room. Riyan knew that all he had brought was the treasure on his back. He should have anticipated that they might not reach Wardeen before nightfall. I have 3 coppers, Chad told him after checking his pouch. Great, moaned Riyan. Food, or a room, and a cheap room at that. We always have the gems, suggested Chad. Perhaps we could trade one for a room. Worth a try. 2 hours later, the lights of Wardeen appeared out of the dark ahead. Riyan sighed with relief. He had been worried about bandits the whole way there. True, Wardeen was the seat of the Border Lord, but at night, well, you just never knew. The walls drew near quickly, and they were soon passing through the gate. As they passed through, Riyan asked one of the guards about an inn that was nice but not too dear. The guard told him the Silent Shepherd would be suitable and gave them directions. Silent Shepherd, mused Riyan with a grin. I like the name. A few people don't understand what it means not too dear. Riyan asked one of the guards about an inn that was not too dear. Not too dear means doesn't cost a lot. It's a euphemism for cheap. Following the directions the guard had given, they soon rode up to a modest 2-story building. Out front was a sign depicting a shepherd sleeping on a hill while his flock grazed below. Inside, they found a middle-aged woman coming down the stair from the 2nd floor. When she saw them enter, she came forward and greeted them. Welcome to the Silent Shepherd, gentlemen, she said with a smile. How can we be of service to you? My friend and I would like a room for the night, Bart explained. One with 2 beds, if that's possible, interjected Chad. Absolutely, she said. She assured him with a smile. She indicated for them to follow her as she led them over to a counter where they were to check in. Once there, she immediately went behind the counter and then turned to face them. It will be 7 coppers for the night, she said. Riyan nodded, then set his pack on the floor. After a few moments rummaging through its contents, he removed one of the smaller gems. I'm afraid we're a bit short on coins, he explained. Then he showed her the gem. Would this be sufficient for a room, dinner, and breakfast in the morning? She took the gem and examined it. When she was finished, she turned back to them with a smile and nodded. It will be acceptable. I'm thinking they overpaid. I'm thinking that gem was worth far more than 7 coppers. But what do I know? I'm not a gemologist or whatever the study of the knowledge of gems are. But when you're hungry and tired, you'll overpay if you have to. Riyan and Chad both sighed with relief. Thank you, he said. Removing a key from under the counter, she handed it to Riyan, telling them that their room was upstairs, 3rd door on the left. Thank you, Chad said. I hope you enjoy your stay here. I'm sure we will, Riyan assured her. Turning from the counter, they headed for the stairs and once on the 2nd floor, found their room. It had 2 beds, as Chad had requested. He immediately went and laid on the one farthest from the door. This is the life, he said with a satisfied smile. Riyan set his pack on the floor by the head of his bed and then sat down carefully. Comfy. Let's go downstairs and get something to eat, Chad said as he sat back up. I'm starved. All right, agreed Riyan. When Chad headed for the door without his pack, Riyan said, I don't think we should leave our packs up here unguarded. Maybe right there, nodded Chad. He returned for his, then when they went down to the common room to see about getting a room. Both felt quite good about everything. Off on their own and independent. What a heady feeling. Over the course of the day, his strength had gradually returned. For dinner, Riyan's mother had cooked a much more substantial meal than the thin stew she had fed him for lunch. He worried that whoever the man was that was in town would make an appearance, but so far nothing. Riyan's mother had stayed near the house all day, only venturing out to take care of the sheep from time to time. The boy that Riyan had paid to take the sheep out while he had been camping wasn't able to do it today. His father needed him for some chore or another. Every time she left the house, she looked for any sign that someone was nearby. Even now, sitting at the table, she continued to glance out the windows. Bart felt bad that his presence was causing problems, but there was nothing he could do about it now. He did come to the decision that when Ryan and Chad returned with his share of the coins, that he was going to leave Quillim. It was no longer safe for him there. Once he finished eating, he thanked her for the meal and returned to bed. He still needed to lean on Ryan's staff to get there, but at least he no longer had to bother her with helping him. Sometime after the sun went down, the sheep outside began stirring. Not like they were alarmed by the presence of a predator or anything, just making noises. Bart didn't think too much about it, for to him the sheep always seemed to be making noise of one kind or another. He was almost asleep when the bedroom door opened and Ryan's mother poked her head in. The worried look on her face gave him cause for concern. "There's someone out there," she whispered. His concern flared into full-blown alarm at her words. Glancing to the bedroom window, all he could see was blackness. Turning back to her, he asked, "Are you sure?" She nodded silently. "Blow out the candle," he told her gently. All right. I detect a continuity error. He says blow out the candle, but he was almost asleep. So was there a candle? If he was almost asleep at night, there probably wasn't the candle burning. So where did the candle come from? It needs to be done. It needs to be there for this scene. So I'm thinking that Ryan's mother had to have Ryan's mother had to write it in, right? Yeah, Ryan's mother poked her head in. The candle in her hand revealed the burning candle in her hand revealed the worried look on her face. Yeah. Typing it here. Yeah, it's not that great. All right. The burning candle in her hand revealed the worried look on her face. He grew concerned. There he goes. He was almost asleep when the bedroom door opened and Ryan's mother poked her head in. The burning candle in her hand revealed the worried look on her face. He grew concerned. "There's someone out there," she whispered. His concern flared into full-blown alarm at her words. Glancing to the bedroom window, all he could see was blackness. Turning back to her, he asked, "Are you sure?" She nodded silently. "Blow out the candle," he said to her quietly. Yeah, that's a lot better. I don't like to be the kind of writer who all of a sudden things appear that were never there before, that's integral to the plot. For me, it's like, well, how do they get there? Why are they there? And is there any basis for it being there, right? Like if Chad all of a sudden, or if Bart all of a sudden starts shooting a crossbow, if there's an intruder, at a crossbow, where'd it come from? Yeah, it's just, things like that just bug me. And some books have them, they just do, but others, most tend not to. And I want my books need to be logical, and it needs to flow consistently. At least logical within the context of the story I'm writing, right? I mean, obviously there's no magic here on Earth, or is there? When she blew the candle out, the room was plunged in darkness, and at the window next to the bed was the moon-shrouded silhouette of a man looking in. "Get to your room and bar the door," Bart yelled as the man broke the window. Ryan's mother screamed and fled down the hall. As Bart rolled off the bed away from the window, he grabbed the leather pack and the 2 darts lying on top. He hit the floor just as the man was passing through the broken frame. "Bartholomew Agreani," the man said as he came fully into the room. A glint of light flashed off the weapon the man held in his hand. "The time has come." In the darkness, Bart could see the man moved could see the man moved around the bed on his way toward him. Bart took one of the darts and threw it. The dart flew true and struck the man in the shoulder. Pain caused the man to cry out as he pulled it from his flesh. "Don't make this any harder than it has to be," the man told him. Then the man cried out again as another dart struck him in the chest. "I'm going to enjoy this," he said as he came forward and raised his sword. Bart kicked out and took the man in the leg. It didn't break anything, but it did cause him to stumble backward a step. "Now," the man said, then paused a moment. He shook his head as if to clear it before he raised his sword again. "Now, it's..." Unable to continue, the man dropped to one knee and the sword fell from his grip. Bart sat up and scooted back against the wall, all the while keeping an eye on the man before him. Placing his back firmly against the wall, he braced himself and began working his way up to a standing position. By the time he was erect, the man had completely collapsed to the floor. Removing another of the darts from the leather pack, he made his way to the hallway. There's no great hall. See, there's no great hall there. A hall is more like, a mead hall, dance hall, meeting hall. Hallway, it's small. It's a small thing, but I think it's important. The silence in the house was absolute. He listened for any indication that another intruder was present. But aside from the normal noise of the sheep, there was only silence. He worked his way down to the front room and then over to the front door, then over to the door leading to Ryan's mother's room. The house was dark. When he reached the door, he tapped upon it. "Caitlin," he said softly, "it's Bart." There wasn't an immediate answer, so he knocked one more time. "It's me, Bart. Everything's all right." Then from the other side, he heard the bar being lifted and the door started to open. "He's gone?" she asked once the door was opened a crack. "No," replied Bart, "but he won't be bothering us again." "Did you kill him?" "Yes." She opened the door fully. "Are there any others?" "I haven't seen anyone," he said. "He may have been working alone." He stepped aside as she passed into the front room. She was but a shadow as she made her way through the house to the room where the man lay. She picked up the candle again and was about to light it when Bart told her it might not be a good idea. He could have had someone working with him, he explained. They do that sometimes. Placing the unlit candle back on the table, she turned her head back toward him and asked, "Who are they?" "I'm pretty sure he came from Mordine." Moving into the hallway, she asked, "What do they want with you?" "I was on the wrong side in a power struggle, you might say," he explained. "I and others have been marked for death. I understand there's a reward offered for my demise." "I see," she said. Entering the room, she glanced over to the shattered window through which the man had made his entrance. Bart followed her with one of his darts clutched in his hand in the event of another attack. She moved around the bed to where the man lay sprawled out across the floor. In the dark, he was nothing but a vague shadow. With her foot, she nudged him to see if he would respond. When he didn't, she bent down and turned him over onto his back. After a brief examination, she turned toward Bart and said, "He's dead." Bart didn't answer. He just stood there while she gazed up at him. She finally stood up when he failed to answer. "How are we to find out if there's another person out there?" "I'll go check," he replied. "Stay in your room." "You can barely walk," she stated. "I can walk well enough for this." Then with the staff in hand, he left the room and headed for the front door. Once there, he cracked it open slightly and gazed out. No shadows moved in the moonlight. The sheep were behaving normally, which was a good sign. He opened the door and slipped out. For several minutes, he did a circuit around the home until he was certain there was no one else out there. Then, returning back into the house, he informed Ryan's mother that the man had come alone. "Is it safe for us to have light now?" she asked. "Yes, I think so." She lit the candle on the table, then picked up a second and lit it from the flame of the first. "Here," she said as she offered him the second candle. "Thank you," he told her as he took it. "We better get the man outside and hidden before someone comes looking for him. If they find out that he was killed in this house, you and Ryan will be marked for death as well." A grim expression came over her as she turned her face toward him. He could tell that her opinion of him was getting worse by the minute. But she nodded, and between them they managed to drag the dead man out of the house and into the hills. She returned to the house for a shovel and then began digging a grave for its corpse of tree in a copse of trees. Before they put his body into the grave, Bart removed everything from the man's pockets and anything else of value he had, including the scabbard for the sword that still laid on the bedroom floor. But it was some time before the work was completed and they returned to the house. "I'm sorry I brought this trouble to your door," he said once they were back inside and sitting at the table. Laid out upon the table before him were the items he liberated from the man's pockets. She didn't respond, just gave him a meaningful look. "I don't think he would have told anyone what he was doing before he came here," he said. "He wouldn't have wanted to take the chance on anyone else beating him to the reward." "How much is the reward?" she asked. "I'm not exactly sure," he admitted, "but I would hazard a guess it's more than 1,000 golds. Her eyes widened at the figure. "That is quite a sum," she said. He only nodded in reply. They sat there while he went through the items laid out before him, but there was nothing that indicated who the man was. Finally, she asked him, "How did you manage to kill him?" "Poison dart," he replied. "When he told me someone was in the town looking for me, I prepared some just in case. Turned out to be most fortuitous." "Yes, it did," she agreed. Then she stood up abruptly. "I'm going to bed." "Hope you sleep well," he told her. She paused there a moment before saying, "You too." He sat at the table thinking over the ramifications of the man's arrival in Quillim. Yeah, I had it. It was ramifications of the man arrival in Quillim. See, little things like that, apostrophe S changes the whole tone. Could he have told someone where he went? And if so, would there be other attacks? Bart wasn't sure. The only thing he did know for certain was that he needed to leave before trouble came calling again. And that ends chapter 11. So Bart's been attacked by Wardine. We learned that he was on the wrong side of the power struggle. What that was, we had no clue. But apparently he's a thief. His father was a thief, and so yeah, the power struggle had to be with nefarious persons unknown. I'm sure we'll learn about that later on, and we'll get to chapter 12 tomorrow. Okay, personal stuff. My girlfriend had surgery yesterday, the first half of her 360 infusion. And I talked to her last night. She seemed to be doing well. Doctor said that the procedure went good. So there's high hopes that at the end of this all, she'll be her back pain that she had been experiencing for many years will be greatly reduced. And of course, while I was talking to her, the doctor came in, gave her meds, and he was out shortly after that. But that's fine. She needed to sleep, and I'm okay with that. I have no problem with that. And my mom is doing much better. She walked to the mailbox the other day. She's out walking out back without the walker's no longer used at all. Period. She still feels a little dizzy and tired, but her teeth hurt. But her jaws hurt, and so I think that's just because she's not getting good food in her. Broth only got broth and applesauce and yogurt only go so far. You need something more heartier to really help out. Plus, she asked for soup, and I got her soup, and I didn't even think about it, but I got regular soup, and regular soup has mass sodium. Well, her blood pressure skyrocketed yesterday. It's since gone down. She stopped eating it, so yeah, it's much better right now. But yeah, it got bad. All right, so that's my news. My YouTube channel has 140 subscribers. I just got a new one yesterday. It's not going up hardly at all, like one every couple days. So I just chalk it up to I am not that exciting. My information, unless you're into my books, really don't mean anything to anybody. So if my channel grows, it'll be slow at best. My posts, these readings I do, a handful of people, you know, sometimes the first day never get double digits. You know, it's always like 6, 7, 8 people. And thank you to those people. I do appreciate it. Though I'm pretty sure that even they aren't listening to it all to the end. But at the end of it, I tend to ramble about my own personal stuff. And I'm sure people beep, click. Yeah. Maybe I should start leaving some really good stuff, you know, after my personal rambles. I have done that a couple times, and no one's commented, so I'm pretty sure no one's ever read them. So, well, thank you for those. If you're still with me, I really appreciate it. If you watch a little bit, I appreciate it. And if anyone out there, I know at least a couple people who really enjoy these, and so they're the ones who I keep doing it for. Maybe one day I'll get 1 million fans and 1,000 will want to read. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, you have a good day. It's gonna be nice here. Sun shining, like 85. It's kind of warm right now. I got the doors open, wind's blowing through. Feels good. Talk to y'all later.